Good afternoon, everyone. I'm William Bird, and I'm the Director of Media Monitoring Africa. And it gives me a disproportionate amount of pleasure to be with you all this afternoon for this very exciting event. Um, Given where we are in the world at the moment, facing a pandemic that has changed everything for all of us, it's really important, I think, that we do take the opportunity to celebrate and be excited and positive about things that stand to make such a huge difference. We've seen over the last year how the media have been shown to be absolutely critical in the fight against the pandemic. So, not just critical to helping us understand and see our world, but as an essential part of giving people news and information that they can act on, that they can rely on in order to know how to deal with their changing environments and their changing world. What it's brought in an environment of fear and anxiety is a level of stability of knowing that there are media entities you can go to that you can trust and that bring you credible news and information. That this comes at a time when our media sector as a whole is under such incredible pressure around the world and on our continent is really incredible. So we've seen media where the number of journalists have been slashed dramatically, their resources cut hugely. Despite that, we've seen them come to the party to try and make sure that they do things. So in that environment where it's incredibly difficult, it's important not just to celebrate, but to celebrate where journalists and media put forward different ideas. So one of the most marginalized groups consistently across all of our societies is our children. It's why for the last 16 years as Media Monitoring Africa, we've been working to make sure that children are able to speak and have a role on a news agenda and have a voice on the news agenda. Our continent is one of the few in the world that is getting younger. We know that in many of our countries on the continent, in some instances, young people outnumber significantly, and by young people in this instance, I mean children, outnumber significantly the number of adults in those countries. And yet, despite these numbers of children across our countries, we find that children consistently occupy only a fraction of subjects in the news, usually well under 10% of our news. So they occupy a significant portion of our populations, but a very limited portion of news and media coverage. So when we started the Elihle Awards, what we wanted to do was something that was a little bit different. We didn't just want to have awards for great reporting, because there's already a number of those. We wanted something that would say, we need an award that celebrates the brilliance of journalists on our continent. We need awards that can say, how do we improve and consistently get better quality reporting? And so we came up with the idea of the Elihle Awards, that instead of supporting the best story already produced, we wanted to support the best idea so that we could spark and stimulate great thoughts and ideas from brilliant journalists. And you'll hear from Girlie just how many applications we had this year from so many different countries. It's really thrilling and heartening to hear how many journalists have responded from the continent. So it's really a great privilege to be with you this afternoon, to be witness to hearing. I don't know who the finalists are. I can barely wait to hear who they are, but to hear what brilliant ideas there are that are going to be able to be created. So what makes the awards great is two things. One, they're for the best idea, and they're also then those that have reached the finals get the opportunity to go out and do them. So we're stimulating ideas, and we're going to see some brilliant, brilliant journalism. So as thanks to this, I want to thank my team and our fabulous supporter and our friends over at UNICEF, and I'll thank them all in a little bit more detail at the end of this. But welcome all, and thank you, and I can't wait. I've spoken enough. Girlie, let's get on with the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, William. So My name is Girlie. I'm the Elihle project coordinator at MMA. So excited to say that this year marks the 5th year since we launched the Elihle Awards. And this application that we received every year, they keep on growing, which is really great. This shows that journalists within the African continent are really excited and passionate about telling children's stories. We have seen that also more and more African countries are applying for these awards. So this year we received over 100 applications from 19 different African countries. This also means that the competition is also getting tougher.
Girlie, you muted yourself.
Girlie, you muted yourself, sorry. You muted at the point where you said the competition was getting tougher. Maybe
okay.
Who didn't like the competition decided to mute you. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't see that. So before we move on to the moment that you're all waiting for of announcing the top 6 finalists, we have two journalists that will be, two judges that will be sharing their comments regarding the 2021 applications. So we have Mallick Mnela, who is from Malawi, and also Jamaine Krige, who's from South Africa. Over to you, Mallick.
Thank you, Girlie. Welcome, guys. I've seen names that I've met elsewhere and others that are completely new. It's really exciting to meet like-minded journalists and those that are just coming into the beat of reporting children. It really was a great opportunity for me, especially being what I would describe as alumni of the contest, and looking at the quality of the pitches that were presented. The first thing that came to mind was really, was I gonna make it if I had entered this year? Then the honest question was that it was gonna be doubtful. So having noted that, I think what I can say is that it might be a competition, but there were a lot of pitches that had come in that were amazing. And I would urge that even those that are not going to appear on the list of winners should really consider pursuing their various stories. Having said that, I think one most important thing that is worth mentioning is that language is something that is critical in terms of how we report issues to do with children, based on the, some pitches that I went through. You see, it's really about children, and the subject being about children is something that would consider as a normal thing, but children are special, and they really deserve to be treated in a special way. Why I had to say about language is that, for example, there were some pretty amazing pitches that could describe children as criminals, for example, which is something that is off the beat, but also how we could describe victims of sexual abuse, for instance, is something that I really thought as a group we really need to look and think how we can describe children and how we can handle issues to do with children. But like I said before, the pitches that we observed made me personally think that there is a lot of stories that could be told across Africa, because some of the stories could really relate to what's happening in Malawi, what's happening in South Africa, and all over the world. So what is really important is that those stories and other stories that journalists elsewhere might have, I think they are stories that need to be told. The issue Elihle may be a stimulant, but perhaps we need more and more of these competitions, and it might not be the competitions per se, but it has to be, there have to be several initiatives that will really stimulate, so that we can see more and more of these ideas coming out, and we can see more and more of these stories being told. Otherwise, it was really an amazing experience. Most importantly, the most important thing that we really must tell, I must share rather, is that the language that is used when we are describing children is something that we really need to have a conversation around that topic. How we also understand the legislation in our respective countries. For example, there were amazing pitches on education, for instance. But there was, in my own view, there was a little bit of lack of detailed attachment to the legislative framework or other instruments, for example, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, or the African Charter on the Welfare and Rights of the Child. So I think there is a need for journalists to really attach to their story pitches to these instruments, because in countries where they don't have adequate legislative frameworks to tell the story in relation to child rights, we can link to the instruments that are available, because they have they have legal strength. They are binding legally, because most of the countries have ratified those treaties. So language, the attachment or the linkages between the national legal framework as well as the international treaties such as the UNCRC as well as the African Charter is also something that I can confess that I think not a single story had that attached to the pitch. But otherwise, all in all, the story ideas that were presented were really amazing. We just need to work around the language and how we can link our subject matter to the relevant frameworks that are available and related to child rights. Girlie, I can talk until tomorrow, so I guess time is not on our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mallick, for all that information. We can move on to Jamaine.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. Firstly, I'm so excited to continue this journey with the Elihle Awards that I started, I think, in 2018. First as a finalist, and then as a winner, and now as a judge and a mentor. To echo what Mallick said, I think it's incredible to see how the competition has grown over the years, but also how the stories and their scope and their reach have grown. There's so many phenomenal ideas from so many different countries and different contexts. And I don't think it's ever been more competitive than it is at this moment. This is my first time as a judge, but I chatted to Girlie and some of the other people who've been involved in the process before, and they confirmed it. The entries really do get better every year. I think the story ideas for 2021 were truly top class, and it was incredibly difficult narrowing them down to just 6. Up until this point, I never realized what the Elihle team went through to come up with this list of final names. And I have a new appreciation for that. I think one of the things that struck me this year about the shortlisted candidates and the finalists was that in as much as the stories highlighted challenges faced by children across the continent, they also showcase solutions, and not just any solutions, but solutions brought forward and driven by the children most affected by the problems in question. Mallick spoke a bit about what could be done better. And I think I'd like to focus on what we really did well this year. These aren't easy topics to cover. And I know we tend to be cautious when dealing with children, especially marginalized children from vulnerable groups. But I'm thrilled to see that our applicants really engaged with these topics in a child-focused and a child-centered way. I think all of you practice a technique that I was first introduced to by media monitoring called green light ethics. In that it's easy to see a hard topic and to practice red light journalism, to step back, to back away, to back off, and to walk away from a story because it might be hard to do. What most of you have done with your applications is not to ask whether you can tell a story, but to explore how you can tell the story, putting ethical reporting and the best interest of the child at the fore of this whole process. As Mallick also mentioned, language to me was important. The stories that made the cut, that have been selected for the next stage, are are stories that show children outside of the tropes of victims or villains and show them as more than statistics. These stories really highlighted the children in question as human characters, as survivors, not victims, or as characters who, despite the challenges they face, are change makers in their own right, with autonomy and with agency. I look forward to seeing how the finalists are further going to engage with the children, not only in amplifying their voices, but in facilitating a space to allow them to bring forward and to offer their own solutions to these problems that they face. As a final note, for those who haven't been selected, I want to urge you to not lose hope in your story. The fact that you entered this competition shows that you have a story that you believe in and that other people believe in. And it's a story that's important, and it's a story that should be told. Find ways to tell that story, even if it is outside of the scope of the Elihle Awards. Tell it on a smaller scale, maybe tell it in a different way, but tell it. Find a way to put the children's voices at the center of the issues that you're dealing with, and not as an afterthought. I think it's never been more important for us as an industry to fight, to amplify the voices of our continent's youth, to give them a space to tell us how to achieve the tomorrow that they know and that we know that they deserve. I'll leave it at that, but I can say that I really look forward to seeing the completed stories and to witness the ripples that I know they'll make regionally and across the continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamaine and Mallick. Those were great points that you raised. Moving on to the moment that we are all waiting for, we have Christine, who is a representative from UNICEF. She'll be announcing our finalists.
Thank you, Girlie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you for that introduction, and a very good afternoon and evening to all those of you joining us for this virtual awards ceremony. As William said at the beginning in his remarks, a time of celebration during, unfortunately, tough times for many. So on behalf of UNICEF South Africa, I'm delighted to be given this opportunity to announce the 6 finalists of the Elihle Awards. UNICEF is extremely proud to be partnering with the Media Monitoring Africa on this inspiring program that encourages alternative thinking around reporting on children, and which enables journalists to expose and highlight issues affecting children in the region and on the continent. Ever since the launch of these awards 5 years ago, we have seen the opportunities they have provided journalists to prioritize children's issues in their reporting. In our collective effort to adhere to the Convention on the Rights of the Child and to meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals, UNICEF values the media as a key partner. It is critical that we give children a voice, and in doing so, ensure that they have a safe and healthy future. We appreciate the power that great storytelling has in changing attitudes and behaviors while driving positive change. Indeed, with regard to progress in advancing and realizing the rights of children, there has been much positive change to write about over the past 2 decades, and certainly in South Africa and many parts of this region. Despite the initial progress on child rights, multiple challenges, however, remain throughout the region and the continent. And the COVID-19 pandemic, which William alluded to at the beginning of his remarks, and its broad-ranging impact on childhood have further exacerbated existing issues and inequalities, and it threatens to reverse hard-won gains. Here too, We value the role of the media in telling untold stories and shining a spotlight on issues affecting children that can mobilize all of us to address. Girlie, I'm told that this year's awards entries focused on an impressive range of topics affecting children, from cyberbullying to early marriage, substance abuse, to saving marine life. The thought, passion, and insight that I know went into these submissions is both encouraging and inspiring, and I'm keen to read the completed story over the coming weeks or month. And before I announce the 6 finalists, I wish to reiterate that fulfilling child rights is everyone's business, from the media to the highest levels of government, from the corporate sector to academia, from parents and caregivers, as well as children and young people themselves. So thank you for telling the stories that need to be told. And I would like to now announce the finalists. So Girlie, shall I just go ahead with the naming?
Yes, you can just name and then mention.
Sorry, you put yourself on mute before you ended your sentence.
Okay, yes, you can just go on, just the name and the country. Don't forget the country.
Mm-hmm. So Caroline Ayugi from Uganda. Dorcas Wangira from Kenya. Farai Shon Matiashe from Zimbabwe. Stephanie Ohumo from Nigeria. Robyn Vorster from South Africa. And Thomas Muriti from Kenya. So over back to you, Girlie.
Thank you for that, Christine, and congratulations to all the winners. I think all of you would like to hear what those great and winning ideas were all about. I think I've seen Robyn as well as Stephanie. Can you please share with us your ideas? Just a brief summary of what the story is about. We can start with Robyn.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much. This is a great honor. And I feel like I'm in very good company, which is an amazing place to be in. So the story that I want to tell is around South Africa's disappearing children. And it's something which has been profound. The more I've delved into it, the more heartrending it's been to see how little we know about children who go missing. And I suspect this is a much broader problem than in South Africa. But in South Africa, our statistics don't line up well with the stories that we're hearing on the ground. There are just so many children who especially young children who are disappearing from their families, and there's never any follow-up. There's never any response from police. And when police do respond, there are some very scary stories about what might have happened to those children. So one of the things which I really want to do is I want to tell those stories. I want to give those children a voice, and I want to look at some solutions where we can look at practical ways that we can perhaps find ways of making those missing children more on, first of all, government's radar, and secondly, also more on our own community radar. So that the sad stories, and the one that really kicked it off was the story of a mum from Protea South Squatter Camp, which is a very poor camp in Johannesburg, who was walking around with a picture of a 6-year-old little girl. who had gone missing in 2017, and she's still not home. And I think we owe it to that little one to tell her story and many others like her. So I really hope I can do justice as part of this process. And thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, Robyn. We can move on to Stephanie. Stephanie Ogumu from Nigeria. Okay, I think she has left the call. I can just read out a summary of her story. So her story is about the sexual abuse of teenagers by older powerful men in the visual arts and music industry in Nigeria. She says grooming and child rape is a reality of many young teenagers in that industry, as they will be hungry for success. You will hear more of that when she publishes her story. And then the other finalist, which is Dorcas Wangwira, she says that her story is about the reintegration into society of Kenyan children who are born in prison, children who are taken in by their next of kin or sent to children's homes. She says that they are in risk of abuse as well as human trafficking. And then our other finalist is Thomas Muriti from Kenya. I don't think he joined us. So he says that the story idea is about the conservation of marine life. It focuses on a 17-year-old Kenyan boy who's using indigenous solutions to save the marine turtle. He is leading the local community in the turtle conservation. And then the last one is Caroline Ayugi. Her story is about the unfair education and limited digital skills opportunities given to children with visual impairment in Uganda. She says that this unequal treatment, both at home and from schools, affects their education and limits their career choices in the future. I think we've come to the end of our session today, and congratulations to all the winners, and thank you to all our speakers. Over to you, William.
Thank you. I'm going to just ask us, I know this is going to cause chaos now, but I really want to just ask if we can just everyone unmute and just give a round of applause to those outstanding winners. Okay, 3, 2, 1, unmute and then applause. 1, 2, 3, go. I want to hear applause. I'm not hearing applause.
Well done,
and rowdiness and celebration.
Well done.
Well done, everyone.
We are not a quiet
Guys.
continent. Huh? We are not a quiet continent.
Beautiful.
We are a continent of noise, of people,
Music.
among other things. But we're certainly a people that are creative and able to produce the most incredible things. I thought the words from all of our speakers were so inspirational and just so wonderfully articulated around the importance of these things. To our finalists, 1,000 congratulations. It sounds from the summaries that have just been read out that your stories are going to be absolutely incredible. They're the things that you'll remember years later. I can still remember reading some of the inputs, the stories from just about most of our journalists. Sorry, you can mute again now, everyone, actually. So I can still remember so many of those stories. I think this year we've got some new additions. The addition of mentors to the group who will be able to help support and answer some of the difficult things, because what we do know is true from reporting on children is it is the most rewarding but also the most challenging area of journalism you'll ever encounter. What we can guarantee is by the end of it, you'll be an infinitely better journalist than you thought you were at the beginning. And let me tell you, we've had some spectacularly good journalists to begin with who are now even more spectacular. So thank you very much for your entrance. For those that have not been successful, do not fear. We've got some plans up our sleeves. Girlie will be in touch with you over the next couple of weeks to share those with you and make sure that you are able in some way to do your story. To our lovely supporters and partners, UNICEF, Christine, thank you so much for your lovely words about the competition and reminding us of the importance of children and the issues that they're going through. I think some of those things have already been conveyed in some of the inputs from some of our finalists. To our mentors, our judges, these people don't get paid, I must tell you. So we're so deeply grateful to you for caring so much, to put so many hours into this, to make sure that we can produce better quality journalism. And that's what ultimately this is about, making sure that we get better quality journalism, that the voices and views and stories of the most marginalized in our countries are heard, because that is the way that we're going to see a brighter future. And all of these things, no matter how harrowing the subject matter, you'll find that they're all incredibly uplifting stories, which again is something that I think all of us can do with a big shot of and an extra dosage of in this particular environment. So thank you very much to the project team. Girlie, thank you so much for all your hard work. To our lovely comms people, thank you for getting us to this point. And I can't wait to see these stories. Thank you so much to everyone. You've been absolutely fabulous. This is the highlight of my week. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good afternoon and evening.